My name is Yorgos Papadopoulos. I'm a graduating third-year law student here at Case Western Reserve University, and this is Faculty View from CWRU. With us today, we have Professor Richard Gordon, the director of the new Financial Integrity Institute here at Case Western Reserve University. And we're here to question him about a pretty hot topic these days in anti-money laundering and tax, which is the Panama Papers. So I'm going to turn this over to Professor Gordon. How's it going?
Pretty good.
So we have you here today to talk about the Panama Papers, and I was hoping you could, I guess, very briefly, summarize them, give us an overview, so just give us an understanding of what these are.
Well, I wish I could actually summarize them. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to see them yet, although I hope that they are released to the general public fairly soon. But they refer to thousands, actually apparently millions of documents that were leaked from a law firm that is based in Panama City, Panama, the Mossack Fonseca firm that is known as one of the world's premier trust and company service providers.
So on that, what exactly is a trust and company service provider?
Well, trust and company service providers, as the name suggests, are companies or typically law firms that will set up companies or trusts for clients. And often these companies or trusts are set up in so-called offshore centers, sometimes referred to as tax havens.
And so based off that just name tax havens, you think immediately tax avoidance, tax evasion. So that leads me to think, are there actually legitimate reasons for having such companies or trusts established in these tax havens?
Oh, sure. In fact, most folks think that probably the vast, vast majority, maybe 98, 99% of the companies that are set up for legitimate purposes.
Interesting.
Among the legitimate purposes would be just to start a company. It could be as simple as a dry cleaning company, for example. And if you set up a company in an offshore jurisdiction, one of which, by the way, is Delaware, probably the most popular. We don't think offshore to be Delaware. But basically, offshore refers to a jurisdiction where you do not live or where your company does not transact most of its business. But you might do that not in where you live, but in a place where it's cheaper to set up the company. Mm. So it could be any kind of company. Also, so-called shell companies are very common it appears anyway, in the what is in the Panama Papers. And these are companies that are set up to hold assets primarily. They're not set up to engage in an ongoing business. Now, why might you want to set up a company to hold assets? One reason might be that you're engaged in a merger transaction. Say two companies are going to merge into a single company. You might want to have a so-called holding company for that purpose. And if you set it up in a jurisdiction that has no taxes, it becomes tax neutral. You're not avoiding taxes. What you're doing is you're just saying we'll have no additional tax applied. And it may just be cheaper and simpler to set up a company, say, in the British Virgin Islands, which is a typical offshore jurisdiction. The second reason you might want to do this for legitimate purposes is that you want to protect your assets from an illegitimate legal action, say a judgment. For example, here in Cleveland, we're home to the Cleveland Clinic and to University Hospital. So we have quite a few doctors here. And it's quite typical for doctors who are often sued illegitimately, some would say, but most frequently, to try to protect their assets from a court trying to execute judgment by attaching those assets. And that's typically obstetricians or surgeons. So what they'll do is transfer title to this shell company of all of their property, their house, their other assets, so that they themselves will not lose title. Yeah.
Well, so with all these legitimate reasons that you just highlighted, the question, it begs the question, why the uproar about these papers? What is the big deal then?
Well, there are also legitimate reasons for doing it. If you are, say, a corrupt dictator and you want to hide your assets from the actual legitimate long arm of the law, you would want to transfer your assets from your own name to another legal person. Also, if you can hide the fact that you are the controller or, say, the shareholder of this company, then it makes it more difficult for the long arm of the law to trace the assets that you've stolen. Or it could be you're a drug dealer, some other kind of criminal. Trace those assets that are either stolen or other proceeds of crime. Instead of them going into your pocket, you go into the pocket of an anonymous company, and then it's more difficult for law enforcement to trace and then to prosecute for the crime.
Interesting, very interesting. And so my next question would be then, what exactly are people doing about this? What is being done to stop this? And what are academics and academic institutes such as Case Western doing to put a stop to this corruption and this taking advantage of the tax system?
Well, one of the things that actually we've done here at Case, as you know, because you're a fellow of the Institute, we've set up a new Institute for Financial Integrity, which is to study anti-money laundering, terrorism financing, preventive measures, as well as investigations and prosecutions. And a central part of what we're doing here is we've created a new Master of Arts program in anti-money laundering, terrorism financing, which we've named Financial Integrity, basically because the IMF, where I used to work, and the World Bank have called this whole field financial integrity. And it's an executive program so that people who are, say, at places like Mossack Fonseca, who are required to implement anti-money laundering preventive measures, so they can learn how to do it better than, say, apparently Mossack and Fonseca have done, since they do appear to have had some very dodgy clients. And also at major banks, like here at KeyBank or at JP Morgan Chase, for example, and also folks who do investigations and actual prosecutions of these cases. So we will be the first such master's program in the world, actually. And it's, as I say, at an executive level, which means it will also be for practitioners.
That's fantastic. That's all the questions I had for you today. Thank you for coming in, and thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. It was great speaking to you.
Thanks a lot, Yorgos.